It's Thursday. It's June 29th, 2023. I'm watching a scene from Captain Marvel that came out in 2019. And in a family in the galaxy somewhere where words actually do mean something, this word skedaddle is something that belongs to me, something that was given to me between me and whoever it was that I don't have a name for, um, and however that works. And so um, I'm watching how it was used in this particular movie, in the scene. Then I'm looking to the current events. And I was watching on, and now, I mean, like, I don't want to make an enemy out of the blue state, and blue bloods, because again, it's part of who I am. But it's really nobody's business, and I'm never supposed to bleed in public, myself or my children, because whether I bleed blue or red is really a private matter within the residence. It is not for outside world to know or to attempt to whatever, or to attempt to discover. That is against whatever, in whatever, at planetary arrangements. Um, so I am here and I'm watching this scene of how they set it up. And then I'm going to CUOMO because they had on some Robert Kennedy last night. He had some town hall. I tried to tape it so I could see what they were speaking of, but somehow it got changed to something called a Rock Hudson, whatever that means. I have no idea. So I missed it completely. The DVR, something changed on the DVR by magic. So again, that's my signal that maybe I wasn't supposed to watch it, and it's just kind of like a helping me out kind of a thing, but I should make note of it in case it was on a task list of something I had to complete. I have no idea. Unbeknownst to me, I don't know what's to my behest or what's to my like benefactor at this point. Um, so I'm watching this, and then it goes into Cuomo and the Life O'Reilly were debating about something with drug use and the way that they brought the argument out. And then that brings up something with my own father right before they ripped the children away and right before I lost the last house. Um, Talking about signaling to my father incorrectly. Um, my father wanted me to go to something called a St. Charles Rehabilitation Center for uh, drug rehab. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, I'm not on anything. Like I stopped going to the doctor. I switched doctors. I I'm following what the doctors are saying. I was like, I followed the course that was given. I was like, I'm not on anything. I was like, but if you want me to go, I'll go. So he made an appointment. We went. We got to this rehabilitation center, and they're like, "Are you on anything?" I'm like, "No," and they turned me away. Which he got. I've never seen my father so angry. I mean, yelling at me. And I'm like, but I'm not on anything. I followed the instructions. Why are you coming after me? And so, and I even asked the nurse in the St. Charles. I said, could you just test me so I could give him the results right here, and he could know that I'm telling the truth since he doesn't seem to believe me. And she's like, no, we don't do that. And I'm like, and again, he went berserko. And so, or should I say beshark? I mean, besharking? So, anyhow, and he just had this conversation in his head. And I think he was meeting with some local friends that had friends of drug addicts. And like, he just got this like conversation going in his head. And he just kept coming after me like I was a drug addict. And I'm like, okay, you need to back off because you are like really confused. And I'm like, and I'm trying to prove to you I'm not what you're saying I am. But every time it's like this, it gets worse. So, anyhow, and I'm the one who's being attacked, like by my own father, and then his whatever's going on in the local neighborhood. And I'm like, you're attacking my reputation as a woman. I was like, I mean, like, again, I need to be removed the relationship between the problem that I've been telling everyone about for years, but it just doesn't ever go away, this Tia Frio 1975. And yet I'm the one being attacked in my own home. Like, I'm just, at this point, I'm just, it's, and this is after years after the first initial attack by the crazy donkey via the route of Jason Romer in 1976. Now, this level of computer is what we had for a very long time. We were not in the digital age. We were not in like digital transfer like within seconds. It was like a CD-ROM at some point you had to put into like a machine and then it added up and it was like slow mo. It was not like really fast at that point. Punch in the coordinates 5229 -47 8.768 0.2. Copy. That was when I was in my teenage years, into my early 20s. That's what it looked like. At some point, they replaced the technology and it became like digital download, digital speed, like wireless. It went real fast. But originally, the only access we had where you had to get software through a CD, you had to put it in the computer. It was a nuisance, but it also was, I feel, a piece of technology protection that now we don't even have that layer of protection. Copy that. Where are we going, Doc? My laboratory. Your laboratory? What do you mean? Oh no. Is that? Wait, what is that? It's not showing up on my radar. Go, Carol, fly! That's no big lesson. Who the hell are they? Those are the bad guys. Fly faster now. Yes, ma'am. What did they want? Me. My work. I never should have brought you along. At 10 Commandment Children, I know what the carol means. Now, in this rescue plane where she's the pilot, Marvell, she's with Lawson in the back, and she's trying to pilot them so they don't crash and burn. Because somewhere, Lawson, who later reveals herself as Marvell, has an energy core.
Yeah, I copy. Good and ground. Yeah, I copy. Doc, your blood. It is blue.
Yeah, but how's my hair? Help me out, will you? I gotta destroy it before they get here.
Lawson?
You remember what I said about our work here? What it's for?
To end wars?
Yeah, but the wars are bigger than you know.
Damn it.
My name is not Lawson. My real name is Marvell, and I come from a planet called Hala.
I would say that you're delusional then. You just got shot down by a spaceship and your blood is blue.
Listen, I spent half my life fighting a shameful war. Now skedaddle before you give me any more regrets. Just remember the coordinates, okay? You gotta save them without me.
Save who? How?
Now, I gotta blow this engine before they find it.
Doing? Wait.
Now, I know at PTA and SLT what Blue Jays represents in the Bayside area at elementary school. And they just came out with a new cartoon movie called Elemental. Just so we're crystal clear. Clear as mud? That's what it feels like.
Blue Jays pitcher Kevin Gossman, his young daughter Sadie throwing out the first pitch.
The cutest first pitch ever.
Their hands are a little small for the split just yet, so we're working on the four-seamer.
Domingo does it.
Now, here was CUOMO last night.
Nationally
This was
televised
E128.
News Nation Town Hall with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's really interesting opportunity for him because he's generated a lot of buzz off controversial topics. Can he discuss mainstream issues, right? You're not going to vote based on a vaccine conspiracy or whether it's a vaccine reality. You're worried about the economy. You're worried about the security of family. You're worried about the quality of leadership. Can he appeal to those? This is the beauty of it tonight. It's not about him bouncing it off some pro like me or an insider or even another politician. It's you, it's your questions. It's voters from Chicago and their viewing parties in South Carolina and New Hampshire. They are my favorite aspect of our coverage. The only thing I would like to see more, and I've been working on the bosses here about it, I would love to have a debate where you have your 2, 3, 4, however the main candidate pool breaks down, and no moderator. Let them go at it. And I'll tell you why. People think it would be chaos. No. It would actually be a lot more transparent for you. You'll see how they deal with each other. That's my idea. But I put it to the side because you got a real come up tonight because with the town hall, you got Elizabeth Vargas, our big star, who's the moderator of it. Now, look, it's not about her. This isn't an interview. It's not a debate. It's about just channeling the audience's questions and making sure that they get answered.
Channeling the audience. You know, it's really interesting. I'm just giving you what actually happened in my real world that led to this moment about all the abuse I've suffered in this system, which was unfair as a human between human violations and civil violations that the humans have done against my person.
So it's just a great opportunity for us. I want to talk to one more person who's in the room about their expectations. Henry Harrison Clark from Charleston. Ooh, look at you. Is that a seersucker suit? That's what I'm talking about. You came ready to dance. That's what I like to see. What do you want
Yes,
from
sir,
it tonight?
Chris. Well, Chris, like many Americans, I'm very concerned about the foreign policy situation that we're seeing in Ukraine and Russia. We've been seeing it for more than a year now. I'm interested, if elected, how Mr. Kennedy will wield America's diplomatic and military power to prevent World War III.
Now, where are you coming from it in terms of how you feel about what America's doing there right now. That we're basically using Ukraine, I don't mean that cynically, as a proxy, right, for our own boots on the ground. We're paying them to fight this war before Russia has a chance to encroach any closer to a NATO ally. What do you think of that move?
Yes, sir. So I was educated at the Citadel, the military college down here in Charleston, and we did a lot of studies about this situation. We talked about it, and I need to be sensitive about how I answer that question.
I did not know, like Cittadella is Italiano. I did not know that there's such a real thing in America, because where I've been in the rooms that I've had access to, that level of Cittadella does not exist. I don't know. I mean, it exists for some part of humanity, but again, I'm trying to get myself through like four different movies between an MIB, one, two, three, or possibility of an international, which gets very confusing. And I don't want to get hurt even further inside of this New York system at the moment.
But we're seeing fifth generation warfare take place where not only conventional weapons are being used, but we're also seeing information being used where, digital media is being used to manipulate the situation and influence people to act in different ways. And it's almost a practice stage for things that may happen in future conflicts. And, all the members of the military community are very interested to see how this situation will continue to evolve.
Played against the Citadel when I was in college. Incredibly fit. And I learned a good lesson. Don't play a team sport against military guys. They follow rules too well. Listen, I love where you're coming from on it. Let's see if RFK Jr. can appeal to you, because you're coming at it from a very sophisticated stance. So thank you very much. Enjoy the night. I hope you get something meaningful out of it. Now, from the voter who matters the most.
Now, this is interesting. I was listening to his panel, and one of the humans spoke very clearly about, which I thought was very interesting. He said that he's worried about the pesticides in the food, and he says, but people don't call me like anti-food, and then something about the water and the fish, and he says, but they don't call me anti-fish, but yet Kennedy's against the vaccine, but they're calling him an anti-vaccinator or anti-vax. And I'm like, I'm not really like, again, I don't even know if saying like I don't even have a dog in that fight, like I don't even know if that's the appropriate verse at this like perversion of and distortion of my reality in an argument. For I know what happened in my real life, and I know how they pushed my father into certain situations that have affected me. And I'm afraid of my future and of my children's future based on what's gone on already. And I don't know who's controlling this drive or this engine at the moment.
To how the insiders see this shaping up, all right? Here's our panel. Democratic strategist Hank Scheinkoff, former Wisconsin governor and former Republican presidential candidate Governor Scott Walker, and Dick Russell. He's the author of The Real RFK Jr., Trials of a Truth Warrior. Dick, I want to start with you. I brought you up to Bill O'Reilly, and I was saying, hey, I got a guy on my panel tonight who's saying Bobby is miscast as an anti-vaxxer. And he was like, well, then that guy didn't read his book. I was like, no, he wrote the book on Bobby Kennedy. He knows his positions. What is the nuance, Dick, for Bobby tonight if people are like, hey, what is this with you and the anti-vaxxer stuff?
Yeah, well, I think he'll say what he's been saying all along, and has been mischaracterized by the media, which is that he's for safe vaccines. He's for all his kids were vaccinated. He wants the vaccines tested against a placebo before they're injected into the arm of our kids or ourselves, in order to prove that that they're safe. And because vaccine manufacturers have liability, they have no liability for injuries, according to a law that was passed by the Congress back in the 1980s. So, that's what he's calling for. As he has said in some of his speeches, I've been fighting to get get pesticides out of food for all these years, and nobody calls me anti-food. I've been trying to get our waters cleaned up so that we can eat the fish, and nobody calls me anti-fish. So anyway, it's like that. I think that's where he's coming from.
I think if he goes that way, he's fine. His problem is that you're putting a square peg in a round hole when you talk about the vaccine during the pandemic. You didn't have the time. Operation Warp Speed was called Warp Speed for a reason. And what they did was they went with.
And they're like, I don't know what this warp speed is, this operation. They speak, and I'm like, what? Like, there's been so much that has not been communicated to my person. And again, like yesterday, I'm like, I'm in New York City. I have a certificate of merit from whatever was going on internally. I have New York State Assembly and the City Council. So I'm just confused why, like yesterday, there was somebody outside who met me on the street and wanted to shake my hand, and it was from the Democratic Party. But there were no Republicans present. And I said to him, because I know better, I looked him right in the eye and I said, "Oh, my son's too young." And I just walked away. I mean, like, are these dangerous characters? Like, are these safe to be on the public streets shaking hands? Where's the Republic? I mean, like, again, these are people who are trying to be elected. And I'm like, yeah, no, I have merit. I have not ever tried to get elected for anything. Usually that's indicative of something completely different than my character and who I've been. And now they've got the piece on what I call the life O'Reilly. Again, like, he got to live better than I did. He just did. I don't know why. I don't know how the system works. I don't know who it's rigged for at MIG rig. But again, I'm quietly jealous of it, but in an appreciation and awe kind of way from a distance. I don't know anything about the man. Just like Rock Hudson, they put on, he was like the purple diamond, and then they go into this, I mean, beautiful man. They were saying how his public persona was, and then they go into, like, delve into his real life, and he died of AIDS, and there was a whole backstory that, I mean, I have no idea. I would have never have known unless they mentioned it on this biography piece. So, like, again, I don't know I only know the front face of these people. So it's like, I mean, just like people only know, usually I thought they only knew the front face, except there seems to be some kind of driving force that's been interfering with my father while he's lived in New York for a long time. And it speaks to even higher concern with whatever's going on in New York.
I'm back with the big man, Bill O'Reilly, and I want to talk about addiction. And I'll tell you why. To me, it matters more than anything else that we've talked about on the show to this point. And I think there are a few things that affect all of our families.
And misappropriating that stigma to somebody else's kid just to push some kind of agenda should be criminal. The fact that people sat around and stuck a blacksmith inside my life after sticking me with a crazy donkey, and then let my entire life just become disheveled and such a struggle. I mean, I am a Cattaruzza de Roya. I have a straddle. My mother before me had a straddle. My father before me had a straddle. I have cosmic importance at clocks besides the blue blood at RH negative. Like, incredibly crucial for so many different arguments, from climatology to, like, I mean, and there's been so much human interference with my ability to have conducted myself in a manner for which I would have preferred to have been driven, or to have drove myself if possible. But it's become this absolute real life nightmare for me, for whoever's involved, which I don't even have names or faces for. I'm sure my father does at some point.
All of us are within 2 degrees of separation of somebody who's dealing with this issue. And there is a school of thought that Bill belongs to, a lot of my friends do, people in my family do, which is we have to be tougher on people who are addicts and call them out for what they're doing and have them understand the danger and the destruction involved with it. He wrote a column about it. He lays out his ideas very well. And I remember.
But here's the thing. There is an argument that's not even being spoken of because I guess it doesn't fit neatly in somebody's agenda. If you go to a doctor, and a doctor, just like a cholesterol medication, I don't care that it's on schedules and somebody else thinks of it differently, because in large data sets, it pulls out differently. But just like they put me on thyroid medicine, and I was able to get off of thyroid medicine, and it turns out I don't have a thyroid condition. Not if I don't tell the doctor that I was on thyroid medication, they don't bring it up. So to me, that is indicative of I really don't have a thyroid condition or that type of metabolic. There's other metabolic disorders I'm currently going through, but that has to do with pollution and contaminants in the area and the food and the water and the air. So, but to label somebody, I wasn't addicted to thyroid medication. I wasn't addicted to anything else. I was symptomatic. They prescribed something. My father came in or somebody came in and said that I had to switch my doctor and I had to switch my medication because I was being poisoned and harmed. So I did. And I got off it. The thyroid medicine also, as far as endocrinology goes, since that's the only thing that really matters. And that's as much as the conversation. But I was not addicted to thyroid medication. I don't know if it was supposed to be placebo effect, but they told me that that's what I needed. And I put my trust in these doctors. Goosis, Patel, all of them. And they've failed me. They've lied to me. They've failed me. And I don't know whose game this is that they're participating with, putting something else over the health and safety of the patients that they're practicing on.
Remember once when Bill O'Reilly was talking about what works with addiction on his old show, and it resonated very well. A lot of people called me up and said, hey, did you hear what O'Reilly said? Why don't we do anything like that here when it comes to addiction? This was the soundbite.
And I'll remind you, in Singapore, they have no problem. Why? They hang them. Oh. They hang them.
Okay, but we're obviously not suggesting that as the answer to...
Look, Singapore at one time had the most pernicious opium problem you could possibly have. It destroyed their entire society. So they said, you know what? We're not going to have this anymore. Yeah. And that's what they did. Bingo, no drug problem.
Yeah. The idea of being tough on drugs, people who use them, is not new. Here's what I want to discuss.
And let's go with this for a minute. This theory of addicted to coffee or caffeine or whatever. No, I'm not. Just as easy for me to stop drinking coffee as it is for me to drink coffee. Switch to tea, it's caffeine, stop that. I mean, like, again, it's just, this is the disgustingness of the mentality of some of the people that are quietly making decisions for others and actually causing more damage, not only by stigma, not only by reputation, but by the way they pronounce almost the character portrayal of this individual. Starbucks was because I have nowhere else to go in this community. I'm not going to the pubs, the taverns, the bars. That comes, again, at prohibitionists. That comes with a whole nother set of stigmas. So my father says stay out of bars. I've stayed out of bars. I went to a comedy club in the attic. It was a speakeasy downstairs, but I was in the comedy show up above. Again, it's this quasi situation going on. and I'm trying to traverse it. So the easiest way to go to try to meet and like to have a meeting place where I'm out in public. I go to the same spot every day. Who do I need to meet? Send me somebody in the area so I can get it. I can get some kind of career opportunity. I can get some kind of work so then I can start paying taxes again. And so I can get back into the system the correct way and I can live on my own. Also, so I can get out in the public. I am not one of these crazy addicts either. So, but in order to sit at Starbucks, you have to buy coffee. So I sat there. I bought the coffee. I bought it. It's practically like renting space in public. So this way they could see how I dress and behave, which is appropriate.
I believe that perspective, not the extreme Singapore model, and I know you didn't mean it as an operative effect, but the idea of blame the addict, I think it only makes the problem worse. I've never seen it work to do anything in a family or with an individual than make the problem harder to solve. Explain to people why you feel we have to put more on the user.
This was never a conversation in my life. I was not raised that way. I was raised Glenn. Like if Glenn and Armstrong had a daughter at NASA and they wanted her, like they could gift one child in all the world a wonderful, safe place, safe harbor to grow up without experiencing this and having a good, solid foundation so I could meet a good man and I could have a good adult life and I could have good children and I could just be normal American, like the way, like an all-American, like a real all fathers proud daughter, all American. I believe that that's what they wanted from me. I believe that that's the path that they tried to set me out on. Why someone in this foul state of New York tried to get me to be with a blacksmith that was already exposed to this level of stigma in order to tarnish my reputation. I mean, like there is this saying somewhere, guilty by association. I'm not associated with him. Like, I don't know his past. I've heard some stories and I don't want to, and once I heard the stories, I really was done. But then getting away from becomes an issue because it won't leave. But this is not my story. This is somebody else's exposure and story. But yet they brought it into my home. They brought it into my real life. And I don't want it even brushing up against who I am and how I was brought up because I know better.
Okay, so I was talking about heavyweight drug importers to Singapore, not addicts.
Dealers.
In 1949, Mao Zedong took over China. 25% of the population was addicted to opium.
Mm-hmm.
He wiped out the problem in 12 months by shooting everybody, including drug addicts.
Because in my world, this is what addict means, and that's an ADDICT, not an ATTIC. Different spelling, different meaning, different when they hear it in American English, it's a different construct. This is like street junkie, addict. That's what is brought up when somebody brings up the topic, for which at this point I'm just silent on because I have no reason to speak on it at this point. But this is what I feel my father was coming at me thinking I was this, and I'm like, I most certainly am not. And that's why I went. He wanted me to meet with some outside drug counselor. So I tried to speak to the woman to show her I'm not this at all. And then that went away. And then all of a sudden it got spun even worse. And my father kept coming at me and coming at me and coming at me. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, you're making my story something that it never was.
Addicts.
And it's something that we call out of the blue. Just so crazy donkey, and all of these attacks on my reputation and my person after you know what you have personal profiles on these degenerates that you keep sending into my life. It's an unfair fight, and I'm not prepared, or I'm not able to protect myself from these situations. Like, I mean, it's gotten really dirty and really bad.
Dealers, addicts, everybody. Anybody associated with opium got killed. And now it killed about 2-3 million Chinese on his own. He enjoyed it. Now, in the United States, we have a problem that is not going to be solved by rhetoric or virtue signaling. I wrote a column, BillO'Reilly.com, free to everybody, called They're Not Victims. If you are a drug addict, all right, you do not have a right to commit crimes or create societal chaos to feed your habit to get high. You have no right to do that. You don't have a legal right. We have stopped enforcing those laws. So drug addicts now run out, shoot heroin into their bodies in front of children, which they do. Everybody's seen it. They can destroy inner cities by living on the streets because they can't work. They commit crimes. It's estimated that 70% of all crimes in the United States are committed by drug-involved people.
No, I'm not working at the moment, not because I'm not employable, but my grandmother suffered from MS and Lou Gehrig's disease. That's what she died of, some combination, or ALS, some combination of the whatever. I believe it to be my belief is it was a biological warfare tactic, some designer disease that she was infected with, and she did not know or have the resources or the ability to speak up for herself. I currently am having a problem. I have a little higher of education than she was able to obtain. So I have some words, I have some background, and I'm trying to document my health as it's deteriorating. Has nothing to do with like the word addict, ADDICT, has nothing to do with that whatsoever. It has everything to do with the fact that I have like lumpy fatty tumors on my person, and I can't seem to find health care who took an oath that actually wants to help me clinically to solve these health problems. Um, and that's a concern because of the state that I'm in, and the fact that on election night it comes up as a blue state. And the blue state has sent my father in my very real journey, in my Lewis father. They've misguided him, misdirected him, and quite frankly, lied to him. And then I tried to prove to him that he was mistaken, and then other things happen.
75% of all the child abuse and neglect are committed by substance abusers, including alcoholics. So this is a problem that's not just the addict's problem. It's society's problem. One solution and one solution only: mandatory drug treatment. Mandatory.
That's fine.
So what that means is, if you commit a crime,
Right.
and you are drug tested, because you would be,
Right.
when you enter the police precinct, and you have drugs in your bloodstream.
Right.
I'm going to stop him right there, because I guess it depends on because some, like the penal colony in New York is not following what the Life O'Reilly's suggesting. I'm just saying, Tia Frio falsely accused me of something, and then I got arrested for I don't know what, because they did not tell me what they were arresting me for. They just came and arrested me. I will say that he was locked himself in that room, and I broke the door down to get to my son, who was on the other side, because I don't trust Tiafreo. I have paperwork in the courts based on other things that he was doing at the time that my father was coming after me. So that happened, but then I got arrested, and I have never had a record. And I was going in there for my son, to get my son out of there, to protect my son from whatever Tiafreo 1975 is. Yesterday I saw a movie. It's called The Day After Tomorrow. It came out in 2004. It's about extreme climatology. I watched the movie yesterday, and then I'm turning this on, and I'm looking at air quality. And again, it's more concern that I have.
Wait for that, but we're going to begin with the deadly heat and the bad air affecting close to a third of the country's population. Unfortunately, we have been here before. Take a look at this haze in cities like Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo, New York. That is smoke from wildfires in Canada. The air quality was some of the worst in the world. In Texas and beyond, the heat is the #1 issue there. At least 13 people, unfortunately, have died in this weather. It was hotter in parts of Texas yesterday than 99% of the planet. Wow. We've got complete coverage from around the country, beginning with Michelle Miller. She's in New Orleans, which is also feeling the heat. Michelle Miller, I know that New Orleans is your city, but the good times ain't rolling this morning.
It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way Universe. Galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.